Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our monthly construction and traffic impacts webinar. My name is Wendy Thompson and I'm part of the Streetcar team. My role is to make sure anyone that lives, works, or travels in the streetcar corridor has information on upcoming work that may impact you and that you have someone to reach out to with questions or concerns. I am going to introduce our speakers today. They are Steve Jensen, Deputy Chief of Staff for Economic Development in the Mayor's Office and Omaha Streetcar Authority Board Member, Megan Walter, MUD Customer Engagement Manager, and Steve Rue, Omaha Public Works Department Capital Construction and Street Maintenance Engineer. So, Steve, I'd like to turn it over to you. Steve Jensen.
All right. Thank you, Wendy. So today on the agenda, we're going to go through the schedule, an overview of the schedule that we've talked about before. So we'll go through that briefly. Megan will talk about the MUD work in terms of gas relocation that is going on and will continue to go on. We'll also look at the West utility package. That's one of the main things we'll talk about today, along with the I-480 bridges. We'll also spend a little time on construction communications and then, of course, have time for Q&A. So with that, let's move on to the schedule. So we've talked about this before, but the work in Lot A at Mecca, which is the parking lot south of the arena, is underway right now. Crews are completing the utility work and will finish paving soon. The landscaping work will be done in the spring. The purpose of that work is to clear an area for the future construction of the vehicle maintenance facility. The Utilities West package that we'll spend time talking about today, going from Turner Boulevard West to about 40th. That work is starting this month. We'll cover that in more detail on the call. Also, the interstate bridges will start later this month, and we'll also discuss those on the call. The vehicle maintenance facility was put out for bid. The bids were received. They came in below the engineer's estimates. The approval of the successful bidder will be on the OSA board agenda for next Monday. And assuming that gets approved at the Monday meeting, the work will begin on that later this month. Later on, we'll be putting out for bid the Utilities East package from I-480 East to about 8th Street. The same thing with the Turner Boulevard sewer improvement work that will go out for bid later this year. And then all of this is in preparation for the streetcar mainline construction, which would begin then next year once all of this utility work and bridge work is out of the way. During the whole period of time, MUD will continue with their gas relocation work into I think later this year into next year. And then ongoing communication fiber utility relocation work will also continue through the early part of this construction schedule. So with that, I'll turn it over to Megan to talk about the work with MUD.
Hello, everyone. Work continues on Farnham Street, and our goal is to be complete with this section by the first week of February. We have successfully directionally bored the new gas main all the way to 40th Street. So going forward, we will have multiple construction crews in the area working simultaneously on connecting new and existing gas service lines to the new main in the next upcoming weeks. Weather has been a bit of a challenge for the work on Farnham, but this continues to be a top priority for the district. Next week, work will start on Harney Street, where we will be installing new main from 38th Avenue to 38th Street. And a portion of 38th Street will be closed from Farnham to Harney due to excavation holes that are needed, but access will be available to the Dundee Bank and to the parking garage from the north. This work on Harney will take approximately 2 weeks. So on 10th and Capitol, our original plan was to do an extended shutdown for the area of 10th and Capitol. MUD personnel reconvened, and we were able to come up with a new plan where the scheduled shutdowns would be much shorter. We did this in an effort to minimize impact to all of our customers. This work is now expected to take place, barring any weather delays, on January 15th, and the expected duration of this shutdown would be up to about 6 hours for the area that is outlined in blue on this slide, but much shorter for the areas in green and yellow, possibly about 2 to 4 hours. There will be an additional planned shutdown on January 16th for the area that is outlined in blue above, and that will be for approximately 6 hours. Our crews will work to relight pilots as quickly as possible once the gas is restored. So we are planning to install new valves in this area, so future shutdowns will impact fewer customers. We know that being without gas for a long period of time in the winter is difficult, which is why we are doing everything that we can to minimize the impact to the customers. We are also placing additional signage near the area of 8th and Douglas to minimize the traffic impacts that have happened down there. So we do appreciate everyone's patience during this work.
So with that, we'll move on to the Utilities West package and Steve Rue from Public Works.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. So I'm going to discuss the West Utilities package. This first slide here is kind of an overview of what was presented last month. This work consists of sanitary, power duct bank, and some water work on Farnham from 40th or from Turner Boulevard going west to 40th Street. This will be done in 3 phases. We anticipate each phase to take between 3 and 4 months. During the course of this, we anticipate westbound traffic to be maintained with the exception of 2 planned full closures. The first of those will take place in this first phase, but not within the next month before our next webinar. So some more information on that can be presented then. Yeah.
Steve, you went on mute. I'm sorry.
There we go. Got it. So here we're anticipating, yeah, thank you. Again, westbound traffic to be maintained from Turner through 33rd during the course of this first month of work here. Eastbound traffic will be restricted. One of the questions that was submitted prior to this was regarding the restriction coming off of Turner onto Farnham. There will be a restriction there, but it is mostly related to channelizing traffic around the closures and some of the staging areas. That turn is anticipated to be permitted. It will just look different than it currently does. So I hope that answers that question there. Can we advance the slide?
Yeah.
Thank you. Here, this is also showing the parking restrictions we're anticipating during this active construction period. Maybe as construction gets started, we anticipate losing all of this parking to the east. And as they continue to move, the rest of parking through this phase will also be restricted. Throughout the course of this entire project, we anticipate wherever active construction is, all of the on-street parking to be bagged and closed off. These will be staging areas and just for safety reasons. We also anticipate some sidewalk restrictions through here, but all access to businesses will be maintained throughout the course of the project. The sidewalk on the south side attached to all of those businesses there will remain open. And there, as you can see, there's just restrictions as to where you can cross the street. And there will be some restriction as to where you can access the sidewalk. So you will probably have to access the sidewalk from the end of each block, not necessarily at the curb. On the north side, the sidewalk on the back of curb will be restricted throughout construction. The sidewalk set back against those businesses will remain open throughout. So we anticipate pedestrian traffic being able to get into those businesses throughout the course of this first phase. Again, no full closures for that phase. As we move forward here, we have this street view here. So you can see all of the parking on each side is anticipated to be closed during construction. Westbound traffic to be maintained. Eastbound traffic will be closed. On the left, we are showing where that first full closure is anticipated in mid-February. So again, that won't be during this next month of work. That should be mid to late February. That full closure is taking place at 34th Street. When we have next month's webinar, we can provide some more information on exactly when we think that's going to happen. For this phase of construction, we are not anticipating any impacts to utility services. There are no planned outages for water, sewer, or power. In the event that there is an outage needed for some reason, notifications will be delivered through that specific entity's normal notification process. Okay, and then on to the bridges. So next week, we're starting work on the West Utilities package. At the same time, Hawkins has both projects. Hawkins is going to begin work on the I-480 bridge replacement. The first bridge that we are going to construct out of the two, Harnum and Harney, will be the Harney Street Bridge. Work is anticipated to start next week. That will involve a full closure of Park Avenue to do some OPPD duct bank work that needs to be done prior to the closure of the bridge. The bridge is anticipated to be closed in early February. That will need to be coordinated with the NDOT and some other adjoining facilities there, like MUD. There will be notices provided. Once that bridge is closed and we are moving into removal of the bridge, there will be closures of I-480 at different times. That work is anticipated to be overnights and weekends. There will be message boards, other press releases and announcements made so that people are aware of when those closures are anticipated, what the other access routes may be, etc. So for now, in the next month, we are anticipating closure of Park Avenue for some utility work. And with that, I'll hand it back.
Thanks, Steve. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about this overall package of business support. We talk about these things individually, but we don't always talk about them as a package. And so we wanted to just kind of remind people of the things that we're doing in the corridor with regard to business support. You know, you heard as far as what Steve was just explaining, some of the work we're doing with regard to construction and maintaining traffic and the ability to move through the area. There's also on the OSA website, you can find construction updates. You can find an interactive map on the website that shows up-to-date information by neighborhood. You can find frequently asked questions for people who may be wondering about some of the questions that we've had over the years about the streetcar. There'll be weekly construction update email newsletters you can sign up for. There are these monthly webinars. And then, of course, you can always contact Wendy if you have questions in between these dates. When it comes to accessibility, Steve outlined some of the things we're doing in terms of limiting the work to these 3 to 4 block segments for 3 to 4 month periods of time, so that is the area that is under construction. That's the area that will have the restrictions. But the other areas that are not under construction at that time, as we wrap up this work with MUD on the gas utility work and so forth, they'll return to the same two-way traffic. All the parking will be open and so forth. And of course, during the constructions, as Steve outlined, we'll do the same thing for each of the areas as we move forward in terms of keeping that one-way westbound traffic. There are a couple of spots where we will have to close it, but for the most part, that will be open westbound in the construction zones. And we will also maintain delivery access, sidewalk access, and so forth. So there's a lot of work that we're doing with regard to construction signage for traffic that Steve mentioned. But in addition, Public Works is also installing 50 reflective metal pedestrian signs along the route. And so there are a number of things we're doing to try and maintain that traffic flow and the ability for people to move through. We're also doing work in the area with regard to parking. We're trying to maintain access to all of the off-street parking in the construction zones. And trying to maintain, unobstructed on-street parking outside of those construction zones. Our parking division has been working with other property owners in the corridor that have surface lots and parking available. They are working with them to try and open those lots at night and on the weekends when they're not in use for the businesses. And so we'll be able to announce some more detailed work or more detail on that work that's going on probably in the next webinar update. We have some other things we're doing to look at some temporary parking in the area. We're not quite ready to announce that. And I'm also trying to help with regard to parking in general and making it easier to access during the construction period. As far as business promotion, we're also working to do added business advertising and support signage. You may have seen some of the signs that are going up in the area. Business wayfinding finding signage being installed in Blackstone, Midtown Crossing, Midtown, downtown Capitol District. And so those signs are going up. We're also working on banners and storefront window posters to be placed throughout the route. And we're also trying to promote the businesses in the area on the OSA website and in other postings on social media. We're working on some other efforts with regard to business assistance and are not quite ready to announce that yet, but we're working on that and hopefully we'll be able to talk about that at our next webinar update. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Wendy, and I think we'll do some discussion about Q&A.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. So we have not gotten any Q&A sent in live yet. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put that in the Q&A section and we'll look at getting that answered. But let's go ahead and start with some questions that we received online. Steve, this one is about Metro. And so how Midtown Crossing area and Park East neighborhood Metro users will be affected by the street, bridge, and stop closures. Should they bypass this area on Orbit, or is there another plan for riders?
So Wendy, I think you reached out to Metro and I know they gave us a statement on this. So I'm just going to read the statement that they gave us. They said Metro users do not need to use Orbit. Metro will put long-term detours in place for routes 15 and 30. These detours will require brief travel on Dodge and Douglas to 25th Street before returning to the regular routes.
Thank you. That is what they sent us. So hopefully we can get some riders that information. If they have additional questions, feel free to send those in. Steve Jensen, our next question is about when will the Hy-Vee that was announced a while ago be opened at 19th and Douglas? Are there any plans for a grocery store downtown that you have heard?
Yeah, so I'm not sure where the information about a Hy-Vee being announced at 19th and Douglas. I'm not aware of any announcement about Hy-Vee. There are several developers in the urban core that are working with potential grocers. And I know some are making a little more progress maybe than others. There's nothing that I know of to announce at this time, but hopefully we'll have something to announce in the not too distant future.
Thank you. And then Steve Jensen, how will the bridges be paid for?
So the work on the bridges will be primarily paid for through the funding that we're using for the streetcar. There will also be state funds involved. These bridges were slated for replacement at some time in the future, and so we're essentially speeding up the replacement of these bridges. The state will be replacing other bridges over I-480 in the coming years, and so they're participating in the cost of this reconstruction. But like I said, because it's being moved up, most of the cost is being supported by the streetcar funding.
Thank you. And we received a question asking about how the streetcar was going to be paid for and whether there was a commitment to not seek cost recovery for the streetcar via a special property tax that includes residential units.
Yeah, I mean, we've made this clear throughout. There is no city tax rate increase, no city tax dollars being diverted to pay for the streetcar. The streetcar is being funded from the increase in value created by the streetcar within the 6 to 7 block corridor, and only the money from commercial multifamily properties within the corridor will be used to pay for the streetcar. So there's no plan to pay for it out of any other funding. I will also note that we originally projected that we would see maybe $3 billion worth of development within the corridor over about a 15-year period. We hired an outside firm to review the corridor and come back with their projections. They projected about $2 billion, which was enough to finance the construction of the streetcar. Since that time, and as of the end of 2024, we had already approved or in the pipeline projects totaling $1.4 billion. So we are well ahead of the $2 billion that was projected by the outside consultant. We are also far ahead of our original projection of around $3 billion. And now the projection, we're very confident that we'll see close to $4 billion in development in the corridor over the next 15 years. And it is that increase in value and the taxes that come from the increased value that will be used to pay for the streetcar. So no need to seek funding outside of that corridor.
Thank you very much. So our next question is from Megan. There's been some issues on 8th Street due to closures during high traffic times. I know that you have addressed this. Is there anything else you'd like to say about that?
Sure. So MUD has just placed 2 additional digital message boards. One of them is located on 8th, just north of Douglas Street, and then another one is on Douglas, just west of 8th Street. So we've placed additional signage there. We have more signage that is coming to the area. Again, just trying to minimize the impact for all the traffic in that area. So, and we did that based on a suggestion from one of our customers. So we really appreciate any input that we can get.
This next question was submitted actually by the same person that submitted the question before, and I'm going to ask Steve Brew this question. But as part of the broader project, additional signage for traffic changes and restrictions will be needed, and possibly that our normal traffic control signage isn't enough to provide context when there's several one-way streets that lead to dead ends and people are used to going a certain way. Will we use the business promotion signs to help get people to businesses a little bit better?
I suppose we could if that was what the situation warranted. Generally, most traffic control devices are regulated by the MUTCD. So we do have like rules and regulations we have to follow as far as directing traffic to try to keep people safe. If that question is more specifically about helping get people to businesses, that is something that we could take up on a case-by-case basis to help facilitate. And I know we've done things like that with parking garages, some other specific instances where we're trying to help people navigate around the construction traffic.
Thank you. And this is our final question, unless anyone else sends in a question. What are the aesthetics of the replacement bridges on Harney and Farnham? Steve, I don't know if you have that information right now or if we need to follow up on this one.
Yeah, I'd have to follow up on what the specific aesthetics are. They're going to look like most of the bridges that we built, but I could definitely provide a more detailed response on that in the future.
Okay.
I might add there was a lot of work done on the aesthetics, including the lighting and how that matches up with the acorn lights that are used throughout downtown. There's also more decorative fencing as opposed to the typical fencing. I think there were some piers or some pillars kind of on either end of the route. And so once Steve can make that information available, I think people will be pleased with the appearance of the bridges.
Yep. Yeah, I can provide a detailed response on that. That's not a problem.
We did get one additional question. I'm not sure if it's just for Megan or possibly Steve Rue can answer this too, since gas is doing one thing and we're doing a different thing with water. So is there a projected start date for gas and water main relocation along Farnham from 24th Street to I-480?
As of right now, I don't have the projected start date for that area yet. I think our main focus is to complete the work on Farnham and Harney where we're at right now. And then hopefully I can give a better update of that at the next meeting for the gas side. On the water side, I could let the city discuss.
Yeah, on the water side, we do have the current schedule. So, like as far as water main work goes on this first project here, the West Utilities package, that work does start pretty much immediately with the beginning of construction there. And then it's kind of staggered throughout. So phase by phase, it's going to change a little bit. And that schedule is being dictated by the contractor.
Right. I believe that the portion that the person was asking about from 24th Street to I-480 is possibly part of our East Utilities package that
Gotcha.
Steve outlined would start this summer. So
Gotcha.
we
Yeah,
don't we don't have the phasing yet for that one, but we will be talking about that soon.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once those go out to bid and then we get a contractor on board and have a schedule, we'll present that information.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank all our panelists for answering these questions and for all of you for sending in these questions. So we'd like to share a little more information, and I'll provide you some information to register for our next webinar to ask additional questions in the future. So we will be doing additional webinars in the future. Our next meeting is scheduled for the first Wednesday of the month, so February 5th at noon again. You must register each month because the link changes each month. And next month, our webinar will take a deep dive on the Harney Street Bridge, similar to what we did today on the West Utilities package, but we'll be providing updates on all of these projects you see here. In addition to attending these webinars, you can sign up for our weekly construction updates email that goes out. You can sign up on our website, and then they go out usually on Thursday afternoon. We also update our weekly or GIS site that allows you to drill down to your local area so you can see what's happening on your commute or right in front of your doorstep. It's updated regularly and will provide more information about construction and detours. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me. My email is listed there as well as my hotline phone number to get a hold of us, and I can get you in touch with the construction or our project team to answer questions that I don't have the answer to. So we just would appreciate you attending today. And if you have further questions, please feel free to follow up with me and we'll get you in touch with our project team. Thank you very much.